She was 15 years old when police took her from her home and drove away without her grandmother in the car. By the end of that day, she would be charged with capital murder, and for the next 20 years, she would live behind bars for a crime she says she did not commit. This is the story of a brutal killing inside a quiet apartment complex in Houston, Texas, and the confession that changed a teenager's life forever. Late October, a modest apartment complex called Green Arbor. Families, working-class neighbors, people who knew each other's routines. Downstairs, a 71-year-old woman named Maria Palomino lived alone. Upstairs, a 24-year-old woman shared her apartment with friends. Among them, a 15-year-old 8th grader who had only recently moved to Houston with her family. The girl came from a tight-knit religious household. Life hadn't been easy. Within 2 years, her family had buried 2 sons, one shot to death while home from college, the other taken by illness. Grief hung over the household like a permanent cloud. Still, they survived together. Until the morning, everything changed. The night before the murder, the 15-year-old stayed over at a friend's apartment in the same complex. It wasn't unusual. She was young, still in school, still figuring out where she fit in. The next morning, she received a page from a family friend. The phone in the apartment wasn't working, so she walked to another neighbor's unit to return the call. She says she spoke on the phone for about 30 minutes. When she returned, her friend was standing outside, looking down over the balcony into the downstairs neighbor's patio. Something was wrong. The sliding glass door below was off its track. A shoe sat in the doorway. Then panic. There was a woman inside, on the floor, not moving. Maintenance was called. The apartment door was opened, and inside, 71-year-old Maria Palomino lay in the doorway, surrounded by broken pottery. She had been beaten in the head and stabbed multiple times with a knife from her own kitchen. Blood was in several locations. Purses had been rifled through. A drawer was open. It was violent, personal, brutal. Police arrived and began questioning everyone who had been nearby. The 15-year-old says something strange happened before officers got to her. She claims her older friend told her exactly what to say. She was instructed to tell police they had all been together when the screams started. To say they had gone downstairs. To say they entered the apartment. To give details. And not to add anything extra. The teenager says she didn't question it. She was 15. The other woman was 24. There were vague warnings about danger if they didn't stick together. So when police asked what happened, she repeated the version she had been told. At first, officers treated her as a witness. They documented the crime scene. They collected evidence. They took statements. Then, the next morning, detectives came back for her. They told her grandmother they just needed to ask a few more questions. Her grandmother asked to ride along. There wasn't enough room in the car. She asked to follow behind them in her own vehicle. The detective said yes. Then he drove away with the 15-year-old before her grandmother could return with her purse and keys. Her mother would later learn her daughter had been taken to the precinct. No one asked for permission. At the station, she was placed in an interrogation room. 2 detectives questioned her. No parent, no attorney, no recording. At first, she repeated the original story, the one she says she had been told to give. Officers began pressing her. They told her they had evidence. They told her they had her blood. They told her they had her fingerprints on the murder weapon. There was no blood evidence tying her to the scene. There were no fingerprints on the murder weapon matching her. But she didn't know that. she was 15. Hours passed. She says she was never left alone. One detective would leave and the other would enter. The questions kept coming. When officers challenged inconsistencies, she began adjusting her story. In one version, she admitted entering the apartment and moving a piece of pottery from the victim's neck. In another, she said she picked up a purse. She admitted opening a drawer in the kitchen, looking for a pen. Detectives kept pushing. She says she was told she wasn't in trouble. She says she was told she didn't need a lawyer. She says she was told that if she kept helping them, she could go home. Meanwhile, her mother called repeatedly, asking where her daughter was. She was told they were almost done. 30 minutes. Another 30 minutes. Another promise. 9 hours. 9 hours of questioning a 15-year-old girl without a parent or attorney present. Eventually, she gave them what they wanted. The fourth statement. The confession. In that final version, she allegedly described a plan to steal the elderly woman's car with 2 men she named. According to the typed statement, the 3 of them jumped the fence, entered the apartment, and when the victim screamed, one of the men struck her with pottery. The statement claimed she helped search the apartment, found the car keys, retrieved a knife from the kitchen, and handed it over. It described the stabbing. It described washing blood from her hands. It was detailed. It was damning. It was typed by detectives. She signed it. She says she never read it. She says she was exhausted and believed that signing it meant she could finally go home. She did not go home. She was charged with capital murder at 15 years old. In Texas, 17 is the age of adulthood, but a judge ruled she would be tried as an adult. She was assigned a public defender. According to her family, that attorney barely communicated with her. He did not interview key alibi witnesses. He did not obtain phone records that could have supported her claim she was on a call at the time of the murder. The trial came a year later. The prosecution's case centered on one thing: the confession. There was no forensic evidence linking her to the crime scene. No fingerprints matching her. No blood tying her to the victim. Later, a letter from the crime lab would state that the DNA in the case did not match her and did not belong to the evidence file originally associated with her prosecution. Unknown DNA was found. No one else was charged. But at trial, the jury heard her confession. They heard that she admitted involvement, and that was enough. She was convicted of capital murder, life in prison, eligible for parole after 40 years. She was 15. She would not be eligible for release until she was 55. Her appeal argued ineffective assistance of counsel, that her attorney failed to challenge the confession properly, failed to suppress it, failed to fight for her rights as a juvenile interrogated alone. The appeals court denied relief. Years passed. She remained in prison. She maintained her innocence. But there was another side to the story. The upstairs neighbor, the 24-year-old who had stayed in the apartment that night, told a very different version of events. According to her, the 15-year-old was involved. She claimed that when she called down to the elderly neighbor asking if she was okay, it was the teenager's voice that answered from inside the apartment. She claimed she saw blood on the teenager's shirt, bruises on her arms, a cut on her hand. She claimed the teenager changed clothes before police arrived. She denied instructing her to lie. Two completely opposing narratives. One says she was on the phone at a neighbor's house. The other says she was inside the apartment when the victim was attacked. There was no video recording of the interrogation, no audio, just typed statements and a signature. The law in Texas at the time allowed questioning of juveniles under certain conditions if they were not technically considered in custody. The court ruled that when she first made incriminating statements, she was not officially in custody. Later, magistrates had read her rights. The confession stood. She has now spent more than half her life in prison. She says she had just endured the trauma of losing 2 brothers when detectives brought her in. She says she was emotionally vulnerable. She says she believed adults in authority. She says she was told she could go home. She says she signed something she did not write, did not read, and did not understand. The prosecution has never charged the 2 men named in the confession. The unknown DNA has never resulted in another arrest. The case file remains sealed in parts because she was a juvenile when arrested, even though she was tried as an adult. Her chances of a new trial are considered slim. The highest criminal court in Texas declined to review her appeal. Unless laws change or new evidence surfaces, the conviction stands. And so the questions remain. Did a 15-year-old girl participate in a brutal murder and then attempt to shift blame? Or did a traumatized teenager confess to something she didn't do after hours of relentless questioning? Was justice served? Or was a case closed too quickly? The apartment complex has long since moved on. Residents have come and gone. The blood has been cleaned, the door replaced. But one woman is still serving a life sentence for what happened inside that small downstairs apartment. She says she is innocent. She says she needs people to ask why. Why no forensic match? Why no charges against the other alleged accomplices? Why no recording of a 9-hour interrogation of a minor? Why a confession obtained under those circumstances was enough to erase a childhood? She says she misses her mother. She says she has never been on a date, never fallen in love, never lived outside prison walls as an adult. She was 15 when she entered the system. She will be 55 before she is eligible for release. Some believe she is exactly where she belongs. Others believe the system failed her. The truth may sit somewhere buried in paperwork, lost evidence, or memories distorted by time. But what is certain is this: a 71-year-old woman was violently murdered. A 15-year-old girl confessed. No physical evidence tied her to the scene, and for 2 decades she has paid the price. Now the question is no longer just what happened inside that apartment. The question is whether the right person has been sitting in a prison cell all along. And that is a question that still has no clear answer.